Actually, all of our life is preparing. This year, preparing for the next. Those first, 8, 9 grades preparing for high school, then high school preparing for college, college and university preparing for a career to earn money, then preparing to make the investments to keep you safe and secure, build a financial wall around your family nothing can get through. Always preparing for those steps and stages in our life. That's part of the game of life. For humans, it seems like it takes us longer to prepare. After 17 years, we're not quite sure. Preparation, getting ready, sometimes seems so laborious. After going to grade 1, now you got to go to grade 2. After grade 2, it's grade 3. Will it never end? Come on, one more grade, grade 4, and then 5. Wow, seems like it takes us forever to finally get ready, to design a life and get married and have a family and a career and fortune and future. But it takes preparation. Now, to communicate well, here's some good words to prepare for communication. Number 1, interest. Just keep your interest alive in people and places. That's why, a big share of my job takes me around the world, countries all around the world, from Africa to Asia to South America to Australia to Russia to the Far East. Israel. The last time I was in Israel, there was some kind of an alert. We were all on the airplane. We all had to get off the airplane. They took off all of our luggage, and each one of us had to go identify our piece of luggage and put it back on the airplane, and then we took off. Wow. If you'll develop an interest in all of that, when it's right side up and when it's upside down, take a keen interest in the politics of the day and the speeches and all that's happening that gives you good stuff to debate and decide. Where do you stand on the major issues? Not only the political issues, but the major life issues. Be that interested in life and people. So underline the word life and people. That's the whole study. Study life in all of its twists and turns. Study people in all of their variety. In being in an enterprise that, where you have to employ people, get people to work with you, that's a challenge. Different ages, different opinions, different personalities, different temperaments. I'm telling you, it's not easy. It is a challenge, organizing, getting people to work together. But the paycheck, it's unbelievable. When I first started in sales, Mr. Schoaf, my mentor, said, here's the good news, Mr. Owen. There's only 9 or 10 real nasty, miserable, horrible people in the world. That's what he said. Now, he said, they move around a lot. You're liable to get one once in a while. But when you do, you just say, hey, there's only 9 more like you. I can handle that the rest of my life. So that was really good. 21 years ago, one of my friends said to me, I heard some people died using that product. And I said, not that many. Now, it was a silly comment that he made, so I had to think up a silly answer. You can't give an honest answer, a good answer to a silly comment. I said, I understand as long as the deaths are under 100 a month, they get to keep selling the product. If the numbers go over 100, they have to come in for a review. Now, that was all silly nonsense, but he deserved it, right? His silly comment. Here's the next word to communicate well, and that's fascination. It goes the step beyond just interest. Be like a child, fascinated with everything. Next, sensitivity. Trying to understand where people are, where they're coming from, the position they might be in at the moment. And some people are having tough times. Be sensitive to all that. Next is simply knowledge. Just gather every idea you can that makes you a better communicator. Now we must learn to say it well. Once you've got something, now you can't mumble, right? It's got to be clear. or no matter how good the message is that you've got to deliver, how good the instructions, how good the ideas, no matter how good they are, if you don't deliver them well, now the power is lost and the opportunity is lost. So number one is to have something good to say, and number two is to say it well. Here's what'll help you to say it well. Make this list. Number one, sincerity. If a message is delivered with sincerity, see, that makes all the difference. If the speaker is sincere, if the father is sincere, if the mother is sincere, see, that's captivating for the children. We can hear someone sincerely willing to speak and someone sincerely willing to listen. Now, in terms of lecture, book, seminar, and all the rest, we must come to this conclusion, because it's a wise conclusion, that sincerity is not a test of truth. In your study and evaluating everything, just make sure you have that in the back of your mind. Sincerity is not a test of truth. We must not make the mistake of saying, he must be right. He's so sincere. See, that might be a mistake. Why is that? Here's why. It's possible to be sincerely wrong. Here's next. Repetition. To get better at something, you just have to go do it. Go do it. Accept every opportunity to go make a little talk if that's going to be your business. Get better at talking to your kids. Come up with more illustrations. Come up with more ideas. Read an extra book, how to communicate with teenagers. So you'll have something a little better to say. And then just practice it. Get good at it. Get better at it. Right? I was clumsy when I started. Now the words flow a little easier. I still struggle with the language, trying to make it clear, but it's easier now. Repetition has helped me to do that. Here's what's next. In good communication, saying it well, brevity. Right? Don't take too long to say it if you can say it in shorter sentences and shorter time. One way to learn brevity is to talk to kids. You talk to kids for 30 seconds and they say, how long is this gonna take? It's already too long, right? 30 seconds. I mean, they got games to play and things to do. They can't hang around for, an hour's discourse. So talk to kids. It helps you to make it more brief. Powerful, but brief. Well said, but, more brief. So here's what's powerful. And you can talk less and even be more effective in this personal development area. The stronger you become and the wiser you become, the more caring you become, it shows in your language and your manner. The texture of your communication changes and reaches where it couldn't reach before. It strikes the heart where it didn't strike before. Next, style. Now you've got to develop your own style. You can be a student of style. There's about a dozen people that I know over the years that if you knew those dozen, you'd say, hey, a little bit of each of them appears in Jim Rohn's style, which is probably true. So make this note, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Style. Next is vocabulary. The better your vocabulary, the better you can share ideas that are meaningful, find words now to use that you couldn't use before. Interesting story on vocabulary. Some friends of mine took a survey among prisoners many, many years ago. Some rehabilitation program they were working on for prisoners. They weren't looking for this, but here's what they found. There's definitely a connection between vocabulary and behavior. And here's what they discovered. The more limited the vocabulary, the more tendency to poor behavior. Isn't that interesting? Now make this note now, especially the English language. There's nothing richer than the English language because there's so many ways to say it in English. In some languages, there's only one way to say it. In English, there's another way to say it, and another way to say it, and another way to say it. When I travel to all these countries and have to have translators, it gets to be difficult sometimes. Expressing something that makes sense in English because we have several ways to say it, but in their language, there's only a couple of ways to say it. So the translator has a tough job So I've had to learn to amend and modify, work on my presentation when I travel needing translation. When I first went to Japan, I said to my audience, he was all bent out of shape. And my translator said, what the heck does that mean? So that would make sense in English, right? We know what that meant, but in Japanese, how would you describe that? So I learned not to use those kind of phrases. My first Chinese audience, I said, he blew his top. My Chinese translator said, wouldn't look good in Chinese. So, right, I have to modify and change and, right, poetry and some things just don't work with translation. Stories make sense in English, don't make sense in another language. So it's okay to give flowers, but don't let flowers do all your talking. Flowers have a limited vocabulary. Guess what flowers say? You remembered. That's about all they say. Flowers don't say, nobody in this world affects me like you do. Love. See, flowers talk, but they don't say that. That you got to put in the little card. And see, long after the flowers are gone, somebody's going to keep the words. The words are more powerful than the flowers. Here's the next one now that's really challenging, but it really works, and that is read your audience. Whether it's an audience of a child or an audience of a training class, or whether you're a minister and you preach, here's what you've got to do. Say something well, but then read the effect you're having. You got to read it. And at first I started just going through my notes like this, and I didn't look up. Then finally, I learned to start looking up to see if it's okay. Should I slow down? Should I speed up? This is a challenge, but it'll help you in framing better the words you need to say and the style you need to use. Okay. Communication is both words and emotion. Words loaded with emotion. See, that's what's unbelievably powerful. It can move nations. It can help people change directions. This is a craft. Don't get lazy here. And the reason I ask you not to get lazy here is because the payoff is so great. Whether it's working on a job or advancing your career or at home with your family or communicating with your spouse, whatever it is, craft your communications. Be a little more aware and just ask yourself, could I possibly get better at affecting people with my language and my words and my style and my emotions and all the rest? And the answer is yes, we all could.